welcome everyone to another episode of Inside CKP. I am your host, Jeremy Como. And before I get to our illustrious guest today, let's pay some bills. First of all, we are brought to you by Chris Kennedy Publishing. For all of your literary needs, go to chriskennedypublishing.com for fantasy, sci-fi, military sci-fi, space opera, a dash of romance, and some nonfiction as well. Check them out at chriskennedypublishing.com. Of course, if you want to support Chris Kennedy Publishing and this channel, go to their Patreon. They have nice freebies there. Well, not freebies. If you want to support them, they'll give you another show. They have CKP Confidential. And other such niceties. Of course, always sign up for the newsletter at chriskennedypublishing.com because you can get freebies there, and you could become a pre-reader potentially. And of course, any author or publisher that you like, go and find them on Amazon and follow, rate, like, of course, buy the books, and because that's very helpful. You can keep up with news on Chris Kennedy Publishing on Facebook. The fan page is the factory floor for all the shenanigans and news. And of course, if you've made it this far, you already know we have a YouTube channel, so check us out there. And now, with no further ado, let me welcome my guest, Mr. Rob Howell. Welcome, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Jeremy, for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, no, I'm happy to have you. And we are here for a specific occasion. This young man has a book that is coming out tomorrow. Today,
Young man, I just turned 55.
Yeah.
I'm the Red Rocker age.
Hey, man, I'm trying to keep you young. So he has a book coming out tomorrow. So go check that out. We're going to talk about that here in a second. But Rob, let's tell people where they can find you online.
Well, first place to find everything related to Lake Most Deep in this entire series is firehallsagas.com. And in fact, that's also going to be where my author page points to. So that's your one-stop shop for me and everything related to this setting and everything else I write. So that's the first place. I'm also on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook, facebook.com Rodri2112. And then Twitter, I'm Rodri at Rodri2112 on Twitter. There's a theme with Rodri2112. I think I'm the only one who's ever tried to use that because I've never run into any instance where nobody else has ever bounced that username on me. So Rodri2112. And let's see here. I'm also on Discord a goodly amount. We have a Discord channel for the New Mythology Press imprint. If you're interested in that, send me an email, rob at chriskennedypublishing.com, and I'll happily send you an invite. Because we have a lot of fun there. We talk about all sorts of things related to the fantasy genre, not simply new mythology stuff, but writing techniques and some of our favorites like David Eddings or Tolkien or, on down the line of, Elizabeth Moon, Ursula K. Le Guin. I was just rereading some of her stuff. Andre Norton. I was reading a bunch of her stuff recently. Just whatever we want to talk about.
Awesome. Well, speaking of things to talk about, we are here because tomorrow you have a Lake Most Deep, and this is the beginning of a new series and a new universe. Is that correct?
Well, sort of. A Lake Most Deep is my first novel, which I wrote in 2015. And since then, I have published over 1 million words, or about 1 million words, and edited several million more. And shockingly enough, somewhere along the way, I think I've gotten better. I loved the characters, and I loved the story, and I loved the setting all from the beginning. That's never waned on me. But if you write, then you know that when you look at something that's 10 years old or whatever, it tends to get like you look, oh boy, I gotten better here. I could write this better. And so for a variety of reasons, I have a chance now to do that, and I rewrote this. I chopped out a bunch of useless words, added some nice things to fill some plot holes and make it faster and snappier. And I'm really excited about this because, like I said, I love the characters and I love the setting, and the mystery turned out to be really cool. And my writing wasn't good enough to live up to it. First novel,
Mhm.
no criticism there per se, but I'm better now, and this is not no longer my first novel. It's the first novel in this series, and it's one I'm really proud of now.
That's awesome. No, it's well, and it shows growth in you that you can say that "Oh, it's not my best work, but I can make it better." So that's good.
Well, I think that's true of just about any author who's honest with themselves. I mean,
Hmm.
I'll bet your wife looks at some of her early stuff and goes, I could, can I change? Yeah, because I'm better now. Because she is better now. I mean, I've read
Yeah.
some of her stuff, early stuff, and now, and she's gotten, and that's one of the reasons why she's got a book out coming out of her own from some podunk company called Bain. I don't,
Oh yeah, I've heard of them. I've
yeah,
heard.
whatever, but she's
Yeah.
got better. I think every writer looks at their earliest stuff and cringes a bit.
Yeah.
Or at least should, because hopefully you're getting better along the way.
What is it? Continue to grow or die? Yeah.
Yeah, grow or die.
Yep.
This is a. I left academia not because I didn't like publish or perish. I left academia because it really wasn't a fun place to be. Here, we've got all these people working together to create. Sure, I'm writing on my own, and yeah, and you might have a choice between buying Marissa's book or my book, and they may choose Marissa over me in a given point. But in the long run, as Chris Kennedy tells us all the time, a rising tide lifts all boats. And I love that aspect,
Hmm.
especially about the CKP crew.
That's awesome. So let's. No, wait. You said academia, and I think you've told me this story. But what did you used to do in academia, if you don't mind sharing?
I was a medieval historian. I was looking to
Oh
become a
wow.
professor of Anglo Saxon England, most specifically uh, 20th century, or excuse me, 10th century Mercia. Sorry, I just realized that I have to sign in so that I can respond to people on StreamYard, and I didn't realize I had to do that.
Oh, let's see
So,
who's talking. I wasn't looking at the comments either. I'm glad you brought it to my attention.
yeah, go
Let's
ahead.
see.
I'll be puttering around finding the username, the password and username.
But usually, yeah. Uh, now, being a you know well versed in that era, is that primarily what you use in your fantasy novels? Is that a kind of a continuous background, or do you delve into all kinds of different eras? Or
Well, I use a lot of different. Chris, sorry, they want two-step authorization.
some
Yes,
people?
yes, yes. Sorry, Google gets me sometimes. I just don't.
Yeah.
So what? As a historian, you tend to do uh, a variety of things. I mean, I love medieval history, but I'm actually probably the world's leading expert on a particular incident in 1853 where we almost went to war with Austria. And I'm not actually being hyperbolic there. I probably am that only because the one source that is most important in it happens to be at Wichita State. So there you go. Um, Great. Well, I guess I won't respond to you guys on here. I'll have to do it verbally. It's not letting
Yeah.
me log in, and I apologize. I should have paid more attention to this ahead of time. I was too busy trying to make sure I was here.
No, we'll
Um,
we'll we'll give them some airtime. I'll bring the comments on air, and we'll give them some airtime.
Awesome. But anyway, as a historian, I think you love history in general, and so you do history. And
Hmm.
so, in my particular setup, yes, I focused on 10th century Mercia, but I also did medieval Russia, most particularly 13th century. I've done serious work in modern Russia in the 19th century. Done serious work on the Mongols. Um, and then naval history in general. I did a bunch of stuff on early naval history, going back to Egyptian naval stuff. So as a historian, you get it, you love it. You just get doing it. And so in my work, yes, I use history as an inspiration all the time. Um, I've got a great medieval background, so this is a medieval setting or medieval-esque setting. So I do have Old English influences. I have medieval Russian influences, medieval German influences, medieval Basque, medieval sub-Saharan African influences, medieval Indian subcontinent influences. I just I love reading um, medieval-esque or ancient um, uh, books. I mean, the Bhagavad Gita is amazing. It's got some amazing stories and stuff in it, and a lot of times we don't know it until Bollywood shows us, right?
Right, right.
And those are awesome. But I can't sing and dance like that, so I got to do it a little differently. I got to do it my way.
So do you still try to publish like research and things like that, or are you strictly fiction and
Strictly
fantasy?
fiction at this point. I mean, I suppose someday. I mean, the thought has kept in my mind that my dissertation, which was going to be a discussion of the population levels of Mercia in the early 10th century, with an eye to were those population levels sufficient to fulfill the law codes that specified that there had to be a certain number of warriors in each district. Um, it's very dry, but there's this list. There's this law code called the Burgo Heidige, and there's one for Wessex and one for Mercia. And what nobody had done prior to me starting this research, now that's been 20 years now, but prior to me starting this research, was are these numbers feasible? Like, are they, like, if they say they need 3,000 warriors, you've got to get to about 70,000 people really in a region to make that. You can go a little bit less. You could probably go down to 55, but that's around 6% there, and that starts really pushing whether the population can support that many warriors. Um, so I was just basically looking to see if I could track down enough of a broad population estimate to find out that many, whether those numbers were usable numbers. Like if we because we routinely use them as military historians for Anglo-Saxon England in the ninth and 10th and 11th centuries. You use the Burgo Heidige because they have these great numbers on that say things like there's 500 troops here or 3,000 troops here or whatever, and that's nice and everything, but I don't know if you know this, but bureaucrats sometimes don't come up with sort of random numbers that don't always mean anything. And I was curious, if these numbers were usable. So question everything. That's what historians are supposed to do. Question everything. So I was questioning the numbers. And yes, I just spent 5 minutes boring the hell out of everybody.
No, it always amazes me when I talk to authors, but CKP authors, of how smart and intelligent in a variety of different fields that these authors are. Because you've got people that work in government, people that are historians, teachers, former teachers, all that kind of stuff, and just some really really intelligent people, which is why you get good stories. But
Well, it helps.
I mean, you can be real smart and not be able to tell a story, so it's definitely a talent. So, but no, that always amazes me, because when I go to these conventions and I talk to you guys and I talk to other authors from different places, I'm like, man, I don't know nothing. It's like all these guys is real smart.
Well, you say that, but I bet you do. It's just the context isn't your field.
Right, right.
You like you're doing some things with this YouTube thing that I don't. I mean, I probably could figure it out, but I never have taken the time. So you're way smarter than I am with YouTube. Um, and what did you do before this?
Oh, healthcare administration.
Yeah, well, my only experience with healthcare was running was doing computer work, IT work at a hospital, and God, I'm glad I don't have to do that ever again.
I hear that, brother. I hear that. No, yeah, my interests are definitely different than say your average writer. Although I do get into some of the nerd stuff, movies and books and everything, which is why I do this. This is kind of my creative avenue. But enough
And you
about
do a
me.
good job at it.
Well, thank you, thank you. So let's talk about the book. Let's. Who is your main character, and kind of describe your main character.
His name is Edward Ethelredson. He is right, which you know. I did. He's heavily influenced by Old English history. He is essentially an Anglo-Saxon thane who has lost his place in society. In so doing, by fulfilling an oath, he ends up killing his father and becomes an outcast. Um, but he has to fulfill his oath, and so that's a really hard thing. And now he's got new oaths, or as part of that, he's got other parts of the oath that he has to fulfill. Except he can't fulfill both. If he fulfills one, he breaks one, and if he fulfills the other, he breaks the first one. Uh, I did that on purpose. There are examples of that in the Anglo-Saxon English history that talk about this such things. And I always love it when oaths force characters into hard places
Mhm.
where living up to those things can be such a challenging. So um, I really am kind of mean to him on that. But here he is. He's lost his place at his home. He's a skilled warrior, so he leaves and he finds a place at one place. As a sort of a sellsword, a traveling warrior for a time, and keeps moving along. And he hopes that someday he can join the Imperial Guard in the Empire of Machaira, and within the Empire, he hopes he can make a new home. And he comes to Akrita, which is a town in northern Machaira, and he finds instead that there's a murder in this story. There's a murder, and there's backstabbing and double crossing, and it's a treacherous place.
Mhm.
And instead of finding himself a place as a warrior, he starts finding himself as a place who can, as a person who can do things. Although this is sort of the first time he does something like this, the second and third novels kind of lock him into place. So Krita becomes his home, but not the home he ever expected.
Awesome. Now, what about the universe? I know you talked about all these different influences on your writing in the book. What how would you describe the universe that he's in?
So I am heavily influenced also by Forgotten Realms and
Mhm.
by Greyhawk and by David Eddings' universe as well. And so I built a universe with a variety of different cultures, a variety of different places in the world. There's a lot of themes from history. So there's a medieval Russian analog. There's a medieval Norse analog. I took some Basque stuff and combined the Basques with chivalric culture, and so I have a Basque kingdom of sorts. Then an Indian subcontinent set up, and some areas of terra incognita that you got to go explore. You got to have some barbarous lands, and the Empire of Machaira is heavily influenced by the Byzantine Empire, and there's a sub-Saharan example because there's a lot of neat mythology in sub-Saharan Africa. It's beautiful stuff, and that more people need to see. So
Oh, that's awesome. No, but you don't necessarily have to be a historian to enjoy this book, right?
well, I hope not. I'm not aiming for that.
You're not trying to narrow your audience that much. Huh?
I will say this: the first version, the very first version that didn't see even the light of day of getting released at all. There was a lot of stuff. My first editor, her name is Kelly Helkgren. My first editor bounced quite a bit of it because it was too much history, too much detail. And this version has cleaned that up even more. I was a historian who started to write, therefore, I had some historian tendencies in my writing. I was also a poet who started to write prose, and that's the other thing that Kelly would catch me on is that there would be phrases in there that were too poetic.
Mhm.
And while they were neat, they distracted from the prose. It's nice to have some of that rhythmic, poetic influence in there, but sometimes I overdo things. This just in, I go over the top on the things I like. Who knew?
So do wait. So now, do you write strictly poetry sometimes?
Hmm? Yes. I write a lot of medieval styles of poetry. I don't really dabble in sort of the modern, sort of freeform poetry, although Old English alliterative poetry is somewhat freeform. You have a few very small rules that you have to follow, um, and they're not necessarily rules except one. You have to have an alliterative chunk, two alliterative chunks in a line. Um, but what I really love about Anglo-Saxon poetry is kennings. Kennings are word devices that basically say this is a perfect example of never use a diminutive word when a huge word will suffice, um, except it's sort of word plays. A common one that you'll hear is whale road. Whale, as in a whale, right? A blue whale. The whale road is the ocean. So it is a way to say the ocean in a more poetic sense. And Anglo Saxon poetry and Norse poetry are filled with these word plays that are just brilliant and cunning and intricate, and I love them. There's a book by Tom Shippey, who is a huge Tolkien scholar. So you've probably seen his name at the end of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings movies. Um, he wrote he got to be a Tolkien scholar because he was such a big scholar of Northern European poetry and myth and stuff like that. He's got a book out 2018, about 5 years old, called "Laughing Shall I Die," which is brilliant. If you want an introduction on sort of the background of Norse poetry and the thinking behind it, and I shouldn't say that. I should. It's not Norse poetry. He's very specific about the definition between Viking and Norse, and he is writing about Viking poetry, and it's quite brilliant. So and very readable. I love it. So I suggest everybody reads it.
Awesome, awesome.
But anyway, it's all about what these word plays and these kennings because the one of the games that the Vikings would routinely play were word challenge games. If you were at the Fantasy dining out, there was a thing where we had to do a rhyming. We could insult each other with rhyming, and we'd get the others to sort of drink the grog. Well,
Hmm.
that actually is very kind of a Norse thing to do. It wouldn't have been rhyming per se, but it would have been fallen under one of the poetic styles that they used. But it was very much these word games. You'd get in and have these boasts and these challenges across the meat hall, and so that was a lot of fun for me. And Rich Haley actually got me on that. He was quite brilliant on even though I kind of threw him under the bus.
Well,
But good time.
uh, before we go on too much longer, let's let the fans know that we do have a giveaway.
Three, in fact, I'll give away 3 books.
3 books, and do we have a criteria?
You have to catch my whimsy in the comments. You have to say something that makes me think that that makes me laugh, basically.
All right, you heard it, folks. Fun comments, go nuts.
And
Um,
I will warn you, one comment about the prize giveaways. Literally leave for Penzic tomorrow. I don't have any copies in hand yet, for obvious reasons, and so it will probably be several weeks before I'm able to put those in the mail. Just be aware that there'll be a delay, but you'll get those. I'll make sure we get that handled. Just it may take some time.
All
So
right. Well,
bring it on, Charlie. I see your challenge accepted.
all right. Well, and another thing, I'm gonna pick on Rob because I've been trying to get Rob a nickname as Doctor Evil because just about every time he's on the show, he's maniacally petting his cat. Although it's probably just normally petting. I just assign maniacal to it. Um,
Both of these things are true.
yes, yes, and I always imagine he has plans, maniacal plans going on in his head as he's petting his cat. So I assign him the moniker of Doctor Evil, and I'm trying to get that going. I don't know if it's stuck yet, but we're gonna try.
Couldn't help that the new house, which is brilliant. I'm actually in my bookstore section, which we don't really let the cats out here very much because this place is huge. And the only reason we let that particular cat out is because if we shake the treat box, she'll come back. Um, so the other cat won't. The other cat will roam around until he decides it's time to come back, and we just try to keep him in our little living area. This building is really big.
So remind me, you bought it didn't used to be a church. What did it used to be?
A mortuary.
A mortuary. Okay.
We
And
don't think, but there have been some people who have suggested it might be true that there's a crematorium in the basement, but we've not yet been to the basement yet.
oh, okay. So have you burned the sage and done all the things to
They didn't die here.
they just brought them there. Oh, good point. Good point. All right.
It's funny when we moved here, there were people who was like, "Aren't you scared of ghosts and everything like that?" And I'm like, and we were like, the first time it was mentioned, both Nicolette and I looked at each other and went, "What?" But all the dead people. Well, they didn't get murdered here, as far as I know, or anything like that. There's no reason for liches to be in the basement or anything that I know of. But who knows? Again, haven't been down to the basement yet. There could be an entrance to Waterdeep down there, as far as I know.
There you go.
There are
Uh,
no stairs. The reason why, by the way, is there are no stairs to the basement. I can get down to the basement, but getting back up seems challenging.
oh, oh. So we're talking about like ladders and such.
Yes, yes. I weigh 350 pounds. Ladders are not my friend.
Oh, okay. Well, some comments here. Let's see. He needs a metal gauntlet. Let's see.
I
And
got one in my armor bag.
of course you do.
Two, in
Marie.
fact.
Well, yes, you would need to. I mean, the rhyming battle was my idea, or maybe it was Melissa's. Okay.
Actually, what this tells me is that Marisa and Melissa need to have a rhyming battle as to who is the rhyming battle creator.
Yes, that sounds good. I don't want to be there to hear it, but yeah, that sounds like a great idea. All right, so you're saying there are herding cats? Yes, there are herding
Yes,
cats.
yes, there's herding. We've only got two, so the herd is kind of thinned, but hopefully one of these days the herd will get a little larger.
Okay, so now, unfortunately, I have not read the book yet. It comes out tomorrow. And so, is there a like a magical component or a magical system or
Yes,
anything like that involved? And can you describe it at all without ruining anything?
I don't think it ruins anything. Basically, every wizard has something that they can do within a few broad categories,
Mhm.
and every wizard basically, I give every wizard one tool, and
Hmm.
that tool is something that they have to use. It's the one thing they've got. So if they've got a screwdriver and it's a hammer problem, well, they got to figure out how to use the screwdriver in that way, sort of thing. Um, and if you've got a hammer and it's a screwdriver problem, well, okay, so maybe there's some solutions there, but they're not going to be elegant solutions. And the challenge to me, the thing I wanted for the wizards in all my stories, is that the magic has to make sense. It has to be limited. It can't be something that the character can just routinely pull something out of their ass and win the battle against the big guy that you had no anticipation that they could do. I really bothers me when that comes out. Now, if they do something, now I love it when I'm writing and I'm sitting there and I'm trying. How is my wizard going to use their tool to fix this problem, which isn't convenient to the tool that they have at hand?
Mm.
How can I write the scene where that wizard can use their magic in an innovative way to come up with to defeat the big bad guy? I love those situations where I can come up with something, because while it's me, it's also the character thinking through, because that's the way I write. I really get myself into the character's headspace. So um, it feels like a win win, because it feels like character won and I won by coming up with something where it really isn't the way the magic should work, but they came up with an innovative way to do it. I like that. I like it when that happens.
That's awesome. No,
And let's get back to cats, by the way. I should mention that the cats that I had when I started writing this novel way back when are in the book. Their names are Melia and Acantha, uh,
hmm
and they're in the book. And Melia will, if you ever go into the Frank Ferry bar, will come up and expect food and petsies. And Acantha will sleep in the stables and ignore everybody, because that's kind of what that cat did.
awesome.
All right, Charlie. Yeah, that's true. I might be a DM.
Yeah, yeah. Good point. Oh wait, no, Marisa said it for me. Good point. All right.
Kind of like
So
on the same wavelength.
yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of, you have other hobbies
Yes,
that would lend yourself, because I'm always seeing pictures of you in certain dress and
medieval
doing,
garb.
yes, and doing certain things. If you want to talk about that, it seems like a big chunk of your life, because I always see pictures of it.
It is a big chunk of my life, and in fact, I've been doing the Society for Creative Anachronism since '98 or so, something like that. A quarter century at this point. I put on armor. I hit people with sticks. I sing songs. I hang out with friends. I even make a few. I write poetry in that world a lot. I don't do as much in the way of crafting, because I'm just not good at it the same way. Like I can do some carpentry things, but not pretty stuff. And I can do a few other things. Like I've made some armor bits here and there, but not pretty stuff. Just functional. Uh,
Mm.
you know, that sort of a thing. But I love watching you. You go to these events, and next week I'm headed out to Penzic, and Penzic starts Friday actually. Uh, and at that, you will see the best of the SCA and the worst of the SCA. You will see people there just because they want to hang out and drink with their buddies. And then
Mhm.
you'll see people there doing really top flight archaeological recreation, and doing some amazing things with period tools and period stuff, like taking. I don't think they'll do it at this one, but there have been events where somebody has brought a sheep, sheared the sheep, um, turned it into yarn, turned that into yarn, it wove the yarn into a piece of cloth, and then made something out of the piece of cloth within a 1 week period at an event. I've seen that happen. Um,
So
at
like tying it and everything.
Yep,
Wow.
every stage through there, and that's fun. A buddy of mine bought a longboat, a
hmm
longship, some years ago, and at one event we do north of Kansas City every year, we sail that longship on Smithville Lake, which is really neat to
That's
be out
cool.
there with the sail flapping and everything like that. So the SCA is one of those things that you say it's a hobby, but it's not. It's about 89 different hobbies, and it all happens at one thing. And Penzic is this is Penzic 50, by the way. So there's going to be something like 14 to 15,000 people there who will be just having a grand time, squished into essentially 2-3 square miles.
That is huge.
A lot of fun. I've been going for 20 years or so to this particular event. Um, I've got so many friends from across the world, in fact, that I rarely get to see except at this event. I've got some friends from Sweden who got over yesterday. Looking forward to seeing them. Got a buddy from Australia I see every year. Buddies from across the United States, of course. In fact, the people we're staying with this year, I usually stay in my merchant book because I sell books out at Penzic. But the people I'm staying with this year are all Canadian friends I have. So, and I haven't seen any of them basically since last Penzic. So that's uh, that's part of the fun is to get to see all these people for 2 weeks a year, and it's just really neat to go home.
Yeah, that's the great thing about these kind of things, this and conventions like LibertyCon and stuff. It's like going to a family reunion of people that you chose. You know.
Yes, it's very much like that. And LibertyCon is the best of that particular thing. And nothing against Fantasy. Fantasy is great at it too.
Mhm.
But LibertyCon's sort of a notch above everybody. And then there's some great cons like Fantasy. And I had a great time at FenCon last year, which is going to be PCon now. And
Mhm.
I had a great time at uh, MarCon or MarsCon. I can't remember which
MarsCon, yeah.
MarsCon up in Virginia. That
Mhm.
was blast. And again, it felt like because it's you and it's Marisa and it's all the rest of the CKP crew or as many can make it and that is home. And 20 books was like that for me last year. I'm really looking forward to 20 books and getting to do that again. I don't really get to go to FactoryCon anymore because it's so distant that it just takes so much time.
Mhm.
But who knows? Once we get everything up and operational here, we may do a something here, like a writer's retreat here. That
Oh,
would be
that'd be cool.
yeah.
That'd be
So
real cool. So what? Since you touched on it, what are you trying to do in the building? You're talking about a bookstore.
yep.
So what else are y'all trying to do?
Well, I will have a used bookstore, and then also hopefully displays for CKP, and maybe a couple of other small publishers. I've talked to some of them as well. Probably have a few games, CDs, DVDs. I've gotten a source that giving me a good price on all of that sort of in bulk and kind of random, which is nice and pretty good stuff to be honest. Uh,
Hmm.
a lot of bestseller type stuff, which this is going to shock you, but my book collection is heavily skews heavily to weird things like Anglo-Saxon history. So I'm going to do that on this side of the building, but the building has two storefronts, and the other storefront, the one that sort of looks like a chapel, is going to be a quilt shop with weaving and yarn and all sorts of fabric type things. And I'm really excited about what my wife's going to be able to do with that. Uh, it's got huge amounts of space, like her 14-foot quilting machine fits nicely, and she's got several looms that are really big and they fit nicely. We're going to probably have an Airbnb here. In fact, we kind of have to have an Airbnb. There's a room that technically has to be some sort of business because it's on the first floor.
Hmm.
So rather than it'll be our guest bedroom, but it will also qualify as an Airbnb. So we'll sell that some. We hear that there are a lot of hunters who are always looking for space during hunting season and some other things. A couple of festivals that Anthony does every year. So I will do that. We've got a big open room that will have some temporary desks, some temporary office space. Start with a couples, go from there. So someone wants to have an office and they don't want to rent one, but they need one every week or something. They can rent from us, and we'll supply internet and printing and stuff like that. So that's kind of a thing that a lot of small towns in Kansas and I suppose everywhere have. So we'll be offering that because currently nobody does that in Anthony. Um, and then who knows? We don't know. We've got You give us an unlimited amount of money, we make condos.
No, I love that, man. I'm excited for you. 'Cause-
We're excited too. It's just it, there's so much possibility here, and we just it's wow, yeah.
yeah.
So we are aiming, although thanks, it is awesome. Wait a second, autocorrected
Sound.
autocorrected sounds to spoons.
Yeah.
What's in your autocorrect?
Yeah. We're gonna have to check her search history.
Um,
Uh,
but yeah, it's a really neat building, and we're really excited about what we're going to be able to do with it.
no, it sounds amazing. That's pretty cool. And going back to what you're talking about with your festivals and things like that, people making things. You get somebody making something skillfully. You make a video or in person, and somebody's doing something skillfully that I don't know how to do, and that's a rabbit hole I will fall into every time. Just watching somebody make something. It could be some little arts and craft thing that I would never make, but because they can do it so well, and it's beautiful when it's done. I will watch a video on that and what was it, baking, people making dumplings and just all kinds of weird stuff. As long as they're making something and they're making it well, I'm hooked.
Well,
So
we are going to do one of the things that's going to be in that big room. That big room is going to be very multi-purpose. During, like I say, during the day, one of the things it's going to do is host people coming in for businesses. At night, we're going to have classes, quilting classes, or she's going to set it up so that she can teach with several different web cameras to be
hmm
able to do just like what you were talking about. And then probably we'll have some game nights. I've talked to a number of people around town, and it seems like there is enough interest in geek culture that having a Steve Jackson night or play Pathfinder or something like that um, might very well go over well. We'll see.
that's awesome.
Lots of things going on.
Oh man, I love it. I wish nothing but the best for you because that
Thank
sounds
you.
like a good time.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah. No. So back to the story. Back to the book. Um, if you had to give your elevator speech to try and sell someone this book, what would you say about it?
It's the Maltese Falcon in a Tolkien version of the Balkans.
Very nice. So, and besides the main character, do you have a favorite character that you enjoyed writing, or and it could be the main character, but do you have a character that you enjoy? It's like you just really got into it and just it really enjoyed writing this character.
Well, I have to admit that most of the characters that you interact with, I really enjoyed. But my favorite not the main character, is Katerina. Katerina Capena. She is a bad guy, and she is a real bad guy. She is the in charge of the prostitution and the drugs and all the corruptive kind of crime within the city. And she is about as chaotic evil as you can be. She's very, I can't, I forget whether it's sociopathic or psychopathic, and maybe she's both, but
Mm-hmm.
she's got quite a few murders and all sorts of worse things that she's done in her career. And it was fun writing her because she's always doing something I don't expect. Because the first thing I said when I created her is that I wanted her to be chaotic, which means she could do anything, just random dice roll here. So times she does the lawful good thing because she's chaotic. She does whatever the hell she feels like. And there are instances. The first scene I ever wrote with her is perfect description of her character. Um, Basically, Edward is trying to solve at the start of the book, and I'm going to give a slight spoiler, but it's not really a big one. Start of the book, he's trying to solve kidnapping. The place where he stops to get some rest to continue on to join the Imperial Guard, a kidnapping happens. And he gets, for a variety of reasons, he gets involved in trying to find out who did the kidnapping, and perhaps save the person in question. All that, and he gets sort of shown who the crime lords are, and he goes and says, "Well, what the hell? I'm going to go ahead and ask him. I'll ask one." And he asks one. He finds a few things out. Doesn't find much out because he's nobody. But it also seemed to me that I had to talk to her. So I had a reason. I came up with a reason to talk to her. And I'm writing this, and she was. This scene was going to be just there because otherwise, the readers go, "Well, why didn't you talk to her? You talked to one crime lord. Why not the other crime lord?" Okay. So I'm in the middle of typing this scene, and I literally type out, "Wait, the girl wasn't kidnapped. You killed her and took her place." And suddenly, the story becomes not a who done it, but a why done it, and that's
Mhm.
way stronger of a story. And it that kind of chaos um, is she brings a lot of chaos to all of these stories, and it's been fun to write her because I'm never entirely sure where she's going to go with things. Um, she, as I say, she sometimes does the lawful good thing simply because it's not expected. It's sort of just what rolls on the. I don't really roll dice for her, but my mind goes with her. I'm going to try something strange. What's the thing you would least expect? Well, and sometimes that has played a really neat part throughout the novels. She's a big character. She comes around more and more often. I even wrote a short story for one of for I think Songs of Valor. I think it was the one for Songs of Valor, where she's the main character, where she's the main character, and Edward is sort of a background character, and she chooses to save him, despite the fact that you know theoretically he's a good guy and she's a bad guy, but she's got a connection to him. She is as fatale of them as there can be.
Well, people tend to agree here. Charlie says she's a great character. Marisa, chaotic evil equals a delight. I agree.
You
I agree.
better agree. It is, after all, your wife.
Yes. Yes. Um, well, but to her point, plot twist. Yes. So to her point, a good bad guy can really make a story, man. I tell you what. Uh,
I actually, one of the things I loved about this particular book, this particular series within the Firehall Sagas, is because I intentionally made this place really corrupt. Even the good guys have a little bit of um, like they wouldn't survive, generally speaking, in this corrupt, backstabbing, uh, very devious place if they didn't have some of that themselves. And so every once in a while you see some of the good guys that help Edward and teach him how to do all these things. You see some of them with a little bit of an edge themselves, and that's been a lot
yes.
of fun.
Yeah. Well, and that's again just a much more interesting character because if everybody's Superman and a Boy Scout and you have these expectations. Oh, he wouldn't do this. He would do that, and vice versa. It becomes very predictable. And where it's like, well, when you actually have to make choices, and some of them are good and some of them are bad, that's a much more realistic character and a much more interesting character. So
I think so too. And like, for example, one of my favorite interactions that's routine in the novel, not just Edward and Katerina, but Edward and a guy named Caprique. Caprique is the basically the cop who's in charge of finding out finding murderers. So those two butt heads all the time, and so most of their interactions are snippy and snarky. And the Zvono, who is Caprick's sort of sergeant, as it were, because it's that it's it's like Morse and Lewis, Morris is Keprik, and Lewis is Zvono. She's forever getting in and stopping them and laughing at the two of them for all the sniping that they do to each other. That one was a lot of fun, and it still goes on. And as I write the fourth novel in that series, I'm having a lot of fun with those two snipping at each other all along.
That's awesome. Well, we're gonna get to that, but before we do, let's go ahead and pick a winner for the giveaway before we forget. Do you want to pick, or you want me to pick?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and pick Charlie because
That's who.
she's had several awesome comments that made me laugh.
Yes. All right, Charlie, you're a winner. Thank you for supporting the show, and it's paid off. So you're going to be the winner of. Would you say $3?
Well, I was going to do three separate winners,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess I'm going to have to. Uh, I mean, Maurice is kind of a ringer. I kind of think here,
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree. I agree.
yeah. So
Plus, she lives in a trailer.
you're like, don't give us three books. Don't give us three books. I tell you what, Charlie, I'll send you a copy of A Lake Most Deep, and I'll add something else into it that's uh, something fun.
All right. Well, so oh yes. So let's get back to what is in the future for this series. So this is a reprint of an old story that has been refined,
Yep.
and it's out tomorrow. I will be putting the link to the book into the show notes of this episode, and of course, posting it online. But what can people expect in the future from this series?
So, A Lake Most Deep is book one. Book two is The Eyes of a Doll. That one will come out on August 29th. And by the way, let me mention here, sorry, a competitor, but I'm on Blaster. I was scheduled for Blasters and Blades podcast Thursday, but due to the fact that he had something come up, we're moving that to that Tuesday night for the release August 29th. And if you've got time for me on Monday the 28th, I may be here too, or whenever you want to have me. I always love coming on your show.
Well,
Uh,
I live here, so you're welcome anytime.
So August 29th is The Eyes of a Doll. October 3rd is Where Now the Writer, and I am aiming, and it's looking pretty positive, but I've got two options. And I actually haven't decided what I'm going to do for the November, and I can't remember the date. So what's the November? Let's see here. October 3rd. One, two, three, four, four. Yeah. So it would be November 7th. For the November 7th release, I have two options. I haven't decided. There are reasons for both, and I kind of want to do Farewell My Ugly, but there's a story in the intervening that I may want to get out to make sure that everything flows better for the whole series. So we'll see. Um, but then the other one, whichever one doesn't come out on the 7th, will come out in December, which then would be the December 12th. So, and then we will turn from there. The plan is to turn from there to the epic fantasy stuff that I've got in this setting. It's a completely different set of stories, but or set of characters. Although Edward makes a cameo, um, that's more the epic fantasy I thought I was going to write when I first started A Lake Most Deep, but didn't.
Okay. So, so same universe, just more fantasy. Just
More fantasy, more epic fantasy. This one, so I started writing this story. I thought I was writing an epic fantasy. Like I'm gonna try this writing thing. This is 2014. I'm gonna try this writing thing, and I'm gonna write an epic fantasy. But it turned out when I got 30,000 words into it, I was writing an Edward novel. I was writing a Spencer novel in this setting I'd created. Um, and the murder mystery private eye thing, and I was like, well, actually sounds really fun. So I rolled with it and then wrote two more of those. And then I decided I was going to write the epic fantasy trilogy I wanted to write. And now I'm 4 books into that epic fantasy trilogy with a fifth one I'm hoping to do sometime in the summer next year.
That's awesome.
So
We got a question. Do we see Valentine in this trilogy?
Valentine
Valentine.
in this trilogy, if you're talking the epic fantasy trilogy, yes. I assume that Valentine there got converted with auto corrupt to from Valentine. Valentine is yes, he's sort of a spy ninja type guy. It's a lot of fun to write. Yes, we will see him.
All right. I love a bad guy that you can root for. You're
He's a
excited.
good guy. He is a good guy.
Okay.
He's more like James Bond in the sense that he is, you know, Her Majesty's Secret Service kind of guy.
Ooh, okay.
Although it's obviously medieval, but it's actually based upon a there was this idea called a vestnik, which were in medieval Russia, which were sort of not as early period as what I'm writing, but it comes out later. But it's this idea that they are servants to the crown that basically do all the dirty work.
Oh, pretty cool. I like that.
So I took that. There's another word that gets used in Norse, in Old Norse called the gestir, who also has those same sort of terms. And yes, I added those two because it seems like fun to have all these weird sort of underneath the special services kind of folks
Hmm.
and doing it in a medieval sense.
Very cool. Um, let's see. Yes, yes, we know. We all suffer, Charlie. We all suffer.
Yes, his name now will be Double O Valentine or Double O Heart.
Yeah. So for people who are watching this now and in the near future, where can people find you out in the wild?
So I'll be at Penzic starting Friday. All 2 weeks I'll be at Penzic. I don't know that I have anything. I kind of with the setting up of the shop and the shops and the all the stuff that's going on. I doubt I'll go to any other convention
Hmm.
between now and 20 books, but I'll be at 20 books.
Okay.
Um, then I anticipate a number of conventions in early um, uh, 2024. I mean, the Fantasy, of course, I got my LibertyCon badge, so I'll be at LibertyCon, but obviously that's down the road. Yeah, not a lot more this year. I'll have
Yes.
one or two SCA events that I'll go to that are sort of just going to go as a guy who's playing, doing the hobby, and then one SCA event where I sell, and that will be in December.
Okay.
Um, but other than that, my convention schedule is light this year. We just got so much to do that much as I love going to conventions, I really want to get this bookstore going. I want it'd be nice to have a another thing going on, right?
Yeah. What? So speaking of, do you have an expectation of when your store might be open?
So we closed on this building on April 11th,
Mm-hmm.
which ironically enough was April 11th, 2011 is when I closed on the house that we had in Olathe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the house in Olathe closed with the new owners on July 11th, exactly 3 months. And looking back, that was a hell of a 3 months to get all of our stuff out, get everything prepped, and get that ready to be sold
Mm-hmm.
in that short of a time. And so we're pretty pleased about that. So, in the interest of continuity, we are tentatively naming October 11th as the opening date that we're shooting for.
Very nice.
Ooh.
If it happens, very nice.
Yeah. But that's when we like it. I would be very disappointed if it wasn't open by the time I left for 20 books.
Awesome. Well, good. Well, all my good thoughts and good vibes going to you, making sure that happens for you, and that it's a huge success. And
So,
yeah,
and we
and
really like Anthony. I have to say, this is a neat small town to live in. The bar's good. The bar got my favorite beer in, and they have good steaks at the bar. So, and they're close enough to walk from, stagger from. Uh,
Oh, that's what I'm screaming right there, man. I would love to have a good bar to walk to.
yeah, I mean that's it's such a neat thing. And yes, I walk in and I become Norm. Um, there's a good breakfast place a block away. There's a grocery store a block away and a grocery store 2 blocks away. It's really a neat town for us. We've got everything. Like I literally haven't driven my car. So I went to Wichita. Let's see, last Thursday. Before that, I haven't driven my car since LibertyCon.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Yeah, that to be able to walk everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah. Let's see. Marissa's like, oh, walking bar for the win. Yes.
absolutely.
Yes. And crawling home for the win. Absolutely.
There's a
We'll get
little route crawling home here, staggering because the route home is through um, a alleyway that's not exactly it's got potholes and gravel and glass. Wouldn't really want to crawl home through that.
yeah. We'll get you a wagon. It'll be fun. All right. But before we go, make sure you go visit Rob at firehallsaga.com. I'm assuming you're gonna have a newsletter.
Yes. There's a link to signing up to my newsletter on firehallsagas.com. It's right up top. I will have the link to the book up tonight for that, for the release.
Hmm.
I've also got a couple blurbs, thanks to Glenn Cook for saying it's a damn fine read, and you can see that on the cover. It says that there. And Larry Correa has given me a nice blurb, and so has Dave Butler, who both of whom have been really supportive. Yes, my knees might very well complain, Charlie. Yeah, that would be not good for knees.
No.
But yeah, thanks to them and just all sorts of fun stuff. In fact, that website has every character and every location and every and a lot more um, listed in there. You can, if you want to find anything out, some of the basic details are out about any character, you can find them all there.
Awesome. And of course, check him out on Amazon. Please like, follow, rate, all the things, because that's a thing now. It really, when you rate the books, it really helps the authors out. So make sure you do that. Sign up for their newsletters, because if you're hoping to get everything from social media, you might miss something. So I always push this every week. Sign up for their newsletter so you don't miss a thing, and you get free stuff from time to time. So it's a win-win. Um,
I want to leave you with a couple of just vague booking because I'm a jerk. I
so,
had something happen yesterday that's really cool, and something happened today that's really cool, and I can't talk about it at least until 2024.
ooh, all right. I love a good cliffhanger. All right.
Yep. I'm not just any butthead.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we go, I'm gonna advertise a few things. Of course, we have one of the other podcasts on our channel is Future Books, where our illustrious guest is the most recent guest on that podcast, talking about this book. And of course, we're talking about other books coming over to CKP. And Rob is also one of the editors at CKP, and so he brings out a lot of books. What was the Trisha's last was the last book that came out before A Lake Most Deep.
No, there was Chris Nuttall's
Oh
Hope in
no,
Hell.
yes.
Yep.
What was the title on that? I'm sorry.
A Hope in Hell that concluded his Heirs of Cataclysm. That Heirs of Cataclysm series, which is post magical apocalypse swords and sorcery, and it's really good.
All right, go check those out. Check out the Future Books podcast that your boy Rob is on. Some other podcasts that we have, the Feral Ladies of CKP, that comes out about once a month. My lovely wife and Melissa Olthoff and my lovely wife Marissa Wolf, my con wife Melissa Olthoff, and Casey Ezel. I have to clarify. Casey Ezel are the co-hosts for that show. The last episode has Haley on it, and they talk about armor and not just the medieval armor that you wear, but armor that we wear out in public and how we interact with people and how we use armor in our everyday life. It's a very interesting, well received podcast. And we also have Last Call, which we've got to schedule another one of those. And this is where people from the CKP world get together, have a few drinks of their favorite libation, and or not at all, just high on life, and talk about books that they've either written, want to write, or just spitball ideas. And it gets pretty interesting towards the end of the show because they show up about 3 drinks in to begin
Yeah,
with.
I was going to say there were libations involved. I think in the last episode of that that was the show at LibertyCon, correct?
Right. We had a live from LibertyCon about 2-3 weeks ago, and that was it. Talk about herding cats. That was fun. That was a good one. But I think Marisa and Casey did a great job, and it was fun. It was fun was had by all. And on a personal note, I was asked by Bain. The fine folks at Bain were nice enough to let me host an episode of the Bain Free Radio Hour podcast. That is out now. I interview DJ Butler with his latest release. So go check it out, because if you go and you like it, they might ask me back. So it'll be a good time.
And there's another connection because his latest release is the Princess and Other Jobs. That has another new mythology CKP connection, several in fact.
Yes.
Congratulations, though. That's really awesome. Bain couldn't have picked a better host to pick on Dave.
Yeah. Well, what I love is about interviewing authors is that they're storytellers, and and the majority of them are willing to tell a good story on a podcast like yourself, and it makes my job real easy. And I dig that about it. It's the ones that aren't too chatty and that I kind of have to, pull a few teeth to get them to talk. But overall, I've had some pretty good experiences with authors because they're such great storytellers. So
Getting us to shut up can be a challenge, though.
yeah, I don't need that. I don't need. I'll make a 2-parter. It's fine.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'll make a 2-parter. But with all that, congratulations on the new book. I'm excited. I'm excited to read it. I'm sure as other people are, and folks, go buy the book, rate, follow your favorite author, sign up for their newsletters. And we'll have once the book comes out, we'll put the link in the show notes here, and of course we'll be posting it on Facebook. But make sure you sign up for those newsletters so you don't miss a thing. And Rob, I appreciate you coming on the show.
For having me.
It's a pleasure as always, and of course, anytime. You let me know when you want to come on at your show. We'll make it happen.
All right.
All right.
We maybe here in a month or so.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. And thanks to all the audience members. I really appreciate y'all coming in and watching, the ones watching live and in the future. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be doing this. So thank you. And we really appreciate it. And until next time, thank you and good night.